News had some fresh reporting, which is that Bob Mueller has enough evidence to bring charges in the Michael Flynn investigation. It coincides with reporting this morning from the Wall Street Journal, which says that according to people familiar with the investigation, Mueller is investigating an alleged plan involving former White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn to forcibly remove a Muslim cleric living in the United States and deliver him to Turkey. Under the alleged proposal, Flynn and his son, Michael Flynn Jr., were to be paid as much as $15 million for delivering this cleric to President Erdogan, who views the cleric as a political enemy. According to people with knowledge of the FBI's inquiries, the Bureau reportedly asked at least 4 individuals about a meeting in mid-December at the 21 Club here in New York City, where Flynn and the Turkish government representatives discussed removing the cleric. By I say removing, I mean kidnapping the cleric. Those discussions allegedly involved the possibility of transporting him on a private jet to a Turkish prison island, according to one of the people who has spoken to the FBI. A spokesman for Mueller declined to comment, as did a lawyer for Mr. Flynn and Mr. Flynn Jr., Mark McKinnon. We discussed this a little bit earlier today. I am almost as flabbergasted by this story as I am by the story about Roy Moore. Just to make it as clear as possible, the putative National Security Advisor of the United States of America in the December period, the transition before he was about to become the National Security Advisor, was allegedly plotting to kidnap a Muslim cleric for $15 million and engage in an illegal rendition to put this person in a Turkish prison. That is what we are now faced with here. That is what Bob Mueller is investigating. I just welcome your thoughts, having sat in the White House and having seen some pretty strange things, but I believe nothing on this order.
Well, as we said earlier, could the bar get any lower? This is an astonishing development. This is the sort of thing that you'd read either in fiction or a third world authoritarian government. I mean, and it just testifies to how broad the net's going and how deep it goes, and that, as you've been saying all along, John, this is not the middle or the end, but just the beginning of a net that is really getting wide and bad.
Heidi Prisbilla, I want to ask you, this investigation obviously has a lot of legs, and Michael Flynn has been at the center of it pretty much from the very beginning. What are you hearing up on Capitol Hill and elsewhere about how people see Mueller's focus on now a number of tracks on the Flynn investigation and what it might mean for Donald Trump?
Which is making it harder to not face the facts that you now have 2 people with Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn now who may have been essentially acting as foreign agents while they were on the campaign, and at a time when the president is trying to, or this is the president rather, who came in promising to drain the swamp. This is kind of like the very bottom of what you would expect to find at the Washington swamp. And I just think it's going to, even if this is totally unrelated to the Trumps and they let's say they knew nothing about it, it at a minimum goes to what kind of vetting was going on in this campaign. And there'll be questions as well about what the Trumps at least knew about it, even if they weren't a part of it.
I feel like we're into now, it's like we're in Bourne territory here. This is like the Trump identity, the Trump ultimatum.
But here's the deal. It's incompetent, Jason
The
Bourne.
Trump supremacy.
The Flynns were like not good at Bourneism.
It's just absolutely incredible.
And somehow it's going to lead back to Russia.
It just, of course it is.
Heidi's point, though, about vetting the campaign is a critical point. When you look at the nominees for many, many posts that Trump has proposed, when you look at the campaign people who are attracted to the Trump campaign and worked in the Trump campaign, who would hire them?
Well, nobody. I mean, we actually, that's not a joke. Nobody. And I think that, you know, Steve Bannon in the interview with Jeremy Peters that we're going to look at later said it was an island of misfit toys. This is how the people on the campaign who were part of the misfits on the island with the other toys describe one another.
It bears saying again, Michael Flynn was the person with national security portfolio who spent most of the time on the plane with Donald Trump throughout 2016. That's why he was going to be national security advisor.
He was maybe going to be VP.
He was the guy that Trump loved having around, who he was close to, and while in parallel with that, he's engaged in trying to engineer, apparently, or at least Mueller is investigating the possibility that he was engaged in creating a kidnapping and rendition plot for this Muslim cleric living here in the United States. I find it extraordinary, and of course, let's just now again remember that one of the things that Trump and Jim Comey were talking about before Jim Comey was fired was the notion of Trump saying to Comey, you know, Michael Flynn, he's a good guy. Like, let's not investigate him. Couldn't you just let this go?
You don't need a
Flynn's
license
good-
or a degree
Flynn's
to
a
work
good
on
dude.
even a conventional campaign, right? So,
Exactly. And it's worth pointing out that NBC's investigative unit had a lot of this reporting on Sunday that other folks are catching up to, that Bob Mueller's investigators have had enough information on Mike Flynn and his son to bring charges if and when they are ready.